highway all night.
At one point, a state trooper came along and told her that plows would be out to clear the roads as soon as possible. There's also word of a school bus forced to spend the night on the side of the road as well. We're still working to confirm that, but we are hearing many similar stories.
Yeah, on the Minnesota side, another viewer says they were trying to drive from Moorhead to Perham along Highway 10, but they had to stop in Glendon because of whiteout conditions overnight. This is precisely why we often remind you to keep a winter survival kit in your car with things like clothing, snacks, and water to keep yourself as safe as possible if you're in that situation like you're stuck for a couple of hours.
Yeah, we're talking about rural communities, and right here in town, things are only slightly better. Our team coverage this morning continues with Nishay Taylor as she is live out on the roadways across the FM Metro. Good morning, Nishay.
Good morning, Jordan and Ashland. Yes, it's very unfortunate that those folks are stranded on those roads. As you can see, I'm right here. I'm in West Fargo, right here where people would normally hop onto the interstate, but the road is closed. As you can see, there's two semis there off the side. It appears that they may have luckily gotten off in time to, as soon as the road closed down. So they're basically stopped over here. There's also a police car there. I believe the semi all the way in the back is actually having some mechanical issues. I did see a tow truck come by, so I think that's part of the problem. But the other one may have just pulled over just so that they could, get off that interstate. So as you said, there are fines for folks who are traveling on the interstate, and semis are particularly troublesome when it comes to being on the interstate because, those winds come pretty fast and they could easily tip over a semi. So it's very important for those folks to really get off the highway. But yeah, so right now this road is closed. There's wind coming, but it's very slim here right now. But while I was sitting here off the side of the road, I did feel how heavy that wind was. It was rocking the car back and forth. So imagine being on the interstate and it's really whipping through. So folks, yeah, you definitely want to stay off, avoid those fines, and make sure that you are keeping yourself safe. Reporting live in West Fargo, Nishay Taylor, Valley News Live.
Yes, thank you for your check-ins this morning. Again, this closure in West Fargo, and another reminder about 19th Avenue in North Fargo as well. So if you're on your way to the airport, you're going to have to be mindful of that. Roadways are just a mess this morning. We do know transportation and DOT plows out there doing what they can, but of course, if you can stay home, you should.
Yeah, that's what they're telling you. So we want to get a check of your forecast this morning. Meteorologist Lisa Green leading our team coverage. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. Well, I have some good news. We have some signs of improvement happening. The wind not as intense as it was, and the snow is ending or has ended already for a lot of us here this morning. So now it's just kind of putting up with what's left of the wind and the blowing snow that's happening. This is our live view at Luther Family Ford. You can see vehicles driving by on the interstate I-29 here in South Fargo, and some vehicles on the frontage road as well. I want to point out the bottom of the screen here. You can see some snow racing by the camera view here, illuminated in the lights at the lot. And of course, the camera is shaking quite a bit in that strong wind. So here's a look at Fargo's current conditions. We're at 3 degrees, so much colder than we've been. Factor in this wind, it's gusting into the 30s and 40s in the valley. We have a 38-mile-per-hour gust out of the northwest currently in Fargo, and so it feels like 21 below right now. So wind chills are going to be really rough for us here. And as we take a look at Grand Forks, this is a still shot, so not shaking, but they've got wind there as well as we're looking toward the Red River and west from East Grand Forks. And we're dealing with winds gusting to 41 miles per hour there. Only 2 degrees in Grand Forks, and it feels like 24 below right now. So again, dangerous cold here to start off this morning. In the wake of this system, the snow is moving east. The bulk of this precipitation more into the Great Lakes area now, though we do have some areas of lingering light snow again in our eastern viewing area. Skies will be clearing as the day goes on, and we'll see more and more sunshine, but winds will be the big factor, and that factors in, of course, to our visibility. So here's a look at some of our latest visibility reports. Northern Valley first, Crookston at a half-mile visibility right now. So traveling on Highway 2 in Minnesota, not the greatest experience. We're looking at 4 in Grand Forks, so that's a little better than earlier this morning. Fawson's at 1.75 miles visibility. Bemidji checking in at 1.5 miles right now. Heading southward into Fargo, we're at 1.75 miles for visibility, so just over 1 mile essentially. We were down to 1/4 mile when we started the valley today, so some improvement there. Oaks still at 1/4 mile visibility. visibility. Gwinner, Wahpeton at a mile, Fergus Falls checking in at a 1.5 miles. So again, a tough day today, especially if you're trying to travel here this morning. We're looking at temperatures that rise slightly, but we stay in the single digits for highs in Fargo. We'll see decreasing clouds. And the critical thing here, decreasing winds. Winds out of the northwest that will eventually start easing up into the afternoon, but it's going to be a very slow process. So here's a look at what we're looking at essentially for winds. Around 8 a.m., still getting some gusts into the 40s at that point. We'll be seeing the steady speeds even as high as 40 miles per hour. It's been intense, just the constant wind we're dealing with. By midday, still some gusts into the 30s, especially in the southern valley, but they are coming down. So that's why we have that blizzard warning in effect until noon, because the winds are going to stay holding up pretty high here throughout the morning, but we really watch them drop into the evening hours. Peak gusts around 20 miles per hour, but most of our speeds are going to be about 5 to 15 miles per hour here with this one. So again, improvement later today, but we are in the thick of things now. Some things to look forward to as we're dealing with this morning is that the wind will ease up, and then of course we've got warmer temperatures coming ahead for the weekend. But in the meantime, stay safe, and if you can't stay home this morning especially, a good idea to do so.
All right, we're holding out for things to get better, but we do know this is impacting our roadways. Let's check in with Jordan for a road report.
Yeah, it's definitely impacting those roads. Some of them absolutely impassable right now. We told you at the top of this, people are stuck along the interstate. That's because it is closed. Some good news, though. I-29 from Grand Forks to Canada is now open in both directions. Those counties of Grand Forks County, Pembina County, Walsh County now in a travel alert. However, once you get to Grand Forks going south to the South Dakota border, that interstate is still closed, and there is no travel advised for all of those counties along the Red River there. I-94 from West Fargo to Jamestown is still closed. We saw Nashay. She was right at the gate there saying you cannot get on that road. No travel advised for much of those areas, and many other county roads as well this morning are also still closed. Now, Jamestown, it actually looks like that county right there, Stutzman County this morning, has dropped the travel alert. However, it still exists in Barnes County. So some slight, and I really mean slight, improvements here. Don't think that you can hit the road and it's going to be smooth sailing, because it still will not be out there. It is difficult. In Minnesota here, we're talking about no travel advised for most every single road that is right along the North Dakota border there. So Highway 75, East Grand Forks, up until I would say about the Halstead area, it's actually closed this morning. I-94 is closed this morning from Moorhead down to Fergus Falls, as is Highway 210, Fergus Falls to Breckenridge, or the North Dakota border there. Highway 10 this morning from Moorhead to Hawley, no travel advised. You take the rest of Highway 10, it actually is just talking about some partial snow coverage. However, again, it's still not great out there. That doesn't mean, yep, smooth sailing, you can hit the road and it's going to be fine. That's not going to be the case. It's still going to be difficult if you try to hit the road. It's just not closed in those parts. And that's really the situation for much of the state of Minnesota. Take a look as we head more toward the south. All of these exclamation points on the map there, that means there are crashes. In fact, one just popped up near Fergus Falls. Let's take a look at where that one is this morning. A vehicle is spun out near Battle Lake. Yep, that's exactly the point there. So even if the road is still open, nasty driving out there. You need to be careful when you're hitting these roads. You can stay updated throughout the morning here on the Fargo CW in the 7 a.m. hour, or you can also get these road closure updates on your VNL News and weather apps. Ashlyn?
All right, thank you, Jordan, for that real-time update. A lot going on our roadways this morning. As we know, this winter storm impacting dozens of schools up and down the valley as well. We've heard from more than 50, most of which delaying the start of classes this morning. We just heard that Fargo canceling classes today, as is Fergus Falls. We have a crawl on the latest school closures on the bottom of your screen. Please also keep an eye on the full list at valleynewslive.com, because as we know and as we've seen, things change quickly on a day like today. Check ahead for your flights as well. We've seen a couple of late night arrivals to Hector Airport delayed. Another one canceled, and this morning so far 2 flights out are canceled and 5 now delayed. So if your travel is still a go for today, you will need to use an alternate route to the airport. That's because part of 19th Avenue North in Fargo is shut down. Use 12th Avenue North to Dakota Drive, which is on the west side of the NDSU campus. Then follow Dakota northbound to the airport entrance access.
Police want your help in tracking down a Grand Forks man who hasn't been in contact with family or friends for about a week. Steve Crary was last seen in Grand Forks a week ago. His debit card was last used in Halstead, Minnesota last Friday.
Crary was last seen driving a silver 2013 GMC Sierra pickup with Minnesota plates. You see it there on your screen, EXK 617. His family says they are concerned about his well-being at this time. Call police if you have any information on Steve Crary. New information about the two men arrested in Michigan last week in connection with an attempted robbery in South Fargo. Those two men had recently been released from prison after serving time for smash and grab robberies across the country.
Police allege the suspects are part of a group of more than a dozen people from the Detroit area who were charged in 2014 for about 40 different robberies in 9 different states. Last Wednesday, the two showed up outside of Gunderson's jewelry store with a handgun. However, the security guard locked the door before they could get inside. The men then took off. They were later arrested in Michigan. Voters in Crookston, Minnesota said yes to the proposed athletic complex project yesterday. The proposal includes a turf field, 8-lane track, press box, seating for up to 750 people, and would also include concessions and bathrooms.
The complex will be located on the property northeast of the high school. In the August 9th primary election, the nearly $4 million referendum failed by just 9 votes. Last night's vote, though, was 1,010 voting yes to 706 voting no. A Minnesota community mourning the loss of a popular coach, Jim McKeon of Bemidji, passed away after collapsing in an ice house while fishing with his son and friend on Mantrap Lake near Nevis.
Friends describe him as a great father, husband, coach, and a role model. They say his positive impacts stretch beyond the football field at the high school.
The Today Show and CBS Mornings are just about to start, but the Valley Today rolls on. More live up-to-the-minute news and weather coming up right here next on the Fargo CW.
Yeah, it is a first alert weather day. A lot of roads are closed out there. People still stranded along the side of I-94 just outside of Fargo as they wait for it to reopen and get back safely. We'll keep you updated on everything right here throughout the morning. Otherwise, stay safe and stay warm.